John had always been a quiet man. After losing his wife 3 years ago, life had turned into a slow, painful routine. He would wake up early every morning, prepare a small breakfast for himself, and leave his modest apartment to go to work. John worked at a small hardware store in town. The pay wasn't great, but it was enough to keep the bills paid and put a little food on the table. His life, though simple, felt lonely. The absence of his wife left a void that seemed impossible to fill, and sometimes, as he walked home from work, he felt the weight of grief pressing down on him. That afternoon, the sky was gray, and rain had begun to fall softly, coating the streets with tiny, shimmering drops. John held his worn umbrella above his head, the fabric slightly torn at the edges, but it kept him mostly dry. His mind wandered as he walked along the familiar streets, thinking about how dull life had become. He remembered the laughter of his wife, the way she used to hum as she cooked dinner, and the warmth of her hand in his. Those memories felt like a distant dream now, and a lonely ache settled in his chest. As he turned a corner near a small grocery store, something caught his eye. He noticed a woman standing under the small overhang of the store, shielding herself and several children from the rain. Her clothes were old and patched, and her face was lined with exhaustion. The children, 5 in total, clung to her, their small hands reaching out to strangers passing by. They looked cold, hungry, and tired. John stopped in his tracks. Something about the scene pierced his heart in a way he hadn't felt in years. The mother's voice was quiet but desperate. She asked for food, for anything at all, but the words seemed almost swallowed by the noise of the town. John had seen people in need before, but he had never experienced anything like this. The sight of a mother struggling to keep 5 children alive stirred a strange mixture of sorrow and helplessness inside him. He remembered the times he had felt desperate, the nights he had gone to bed hungry, and the crushing weight of loneliness he had carried. He knew what it was like to face life when everything seemed unfair, but seeing someone else in such dire need made the pain feel sharper. John hesitated, unsure what to do. He had only a few dollars in his pocket, barely enough to buy his own dinner, let alone help someone else. But as he looked at the mother's tired eyes and the children's small, pleading faces, he felt something stir inside him. A sense of compassion, of human connection, overpowered his fear. He couldn't just walk away. Not this time. He took a deep breath and approached her slowly, careful not to startle the children. "Excuse me," he said softly. "Do you need some help?" The woman looked up, her eyes wide with a mixture of hope and caution. She nodded, her lips trembling slightly. "Yes. Please," she whispered. John fumbled in his pockets and pulled out the few coins and bills he had. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy some bread, milk, and a few basic things from the store nearby. As they walked toward the store together, John noticed how the children looked at him with curiosity. Some of them were shy, hiding behind their mother, while others stared openly, their eyes reflecting both hunger and trust. He realized that, despite their hardships, there was something resilient about them. They had not lost their innocence entirely, and they clung to their mother with a love that seemed unbreakable. It reminded John of his own wife and the life they had shared before tragedy struck. Inside the store, John bought what he could with his small amount of money. The shelves were neatly arranged, filled with colorful packages and fresh produce. But John focused only on the essentials. He selected bread, some eggs, milk, and a few canned items. He also picked up a small bag of biscuits, thinking the children might enjoy them. As he handed the items to the mother, she looked at him with a gratitude that brought tears to his eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "You don't know what this means to us." John shook his head. "I can imagine," he said quietly. "I've been through hard times myself." On the way back to the street, They walked in silence for a few moments. The rain had slowed, leaving the city glistening, with tiny puddles reflecting the gray sky. John noticed the mother's hands shaking slightly as she carried the groceries. He offered to help her, and she accepted, smiling faintly for the first time. "My name is Maria," she said, introducing herself. "And these are my children: Anna, David, Lily, Michael, and little Sophie." John smiled and nodded, trying to remember all their names. "I'm John," he said. "It's nice to meet you." As they reached the small apartment building where Maria and her children lived, John felt a mixture of curiosity and concern. He had no idea what awaited him inside, but something told him it was important to see for himself. Maria opened the door to a tiny, dimly lit apartment. The smell of damp and old wood filled the air, and the furniture was sparse and worn. The children ran to the table, their eyes lighting up at the sight of the food. John watched as Maria carefully placed each item, making sure every child got something. Sitting down for a moment, John and Maria began to talk. She explained how her husband had left years ago and how she had been struggling alone ever since. She spoke softly, almost as if afraid someone might overhear, and her voice carried a quiet strength that fascinated John. Despite everything, she was determined to care for her children, to give them some semblance of normal life. John listened intently, feeling both admiration and a deep sadness. He realized how much courage it took to face life each day under such circumstances. John didn't know how long he stayed in the apartment. The rain continued outside, but inside, he felt a strange warmth. He felt needed again, as if his purpose in life had shifted from just surviving to helping others survive. As he left later that evening, promising to check on them the next day, he felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and fulfillment. The encounter had shaken something inside him, awakened a part of his heart that had lain dormant since his wife passed away. Walking home in the fading light, John reflected on what he had seen. He thought about the struggles of life and the small acts of kindness that could make a difference. He realized that helping Maria and her children wasn't just about giving them food, it was about offering hope, showing compassion, and reminding them that they weren't alone. And, for the first time in a long while, John felt a spark of hope for himself as well. That evening, John sat by his small kitchen table, sipping a cup of tea. He thought about the children's bright eyes, Maria's quiet determination, and the laughter that had briefly filled the apartment. He knew life would not become easy overnight, but something inside him had changed. He had discovered that even in his own struggles, he could extend kindness, and in doing so, he could create a ripple of hope that might grow into something much bigger. For John, that rainy afternoon was more than just a chance encounter, it was the beginning of a journey. A journey that would not only change the lives of Maria and her children, but also help him rediscover purpose, compassion, and the simple, profound power of human connection. The next morning, John woke up with a strange sense of purpose. He couldn't stop thinking about Maria and her children. He remembered their faces, the way the little ones had stared at him with wide, curious eyes, and the quiet strength in Maria's voice. It wasn't just their need for food or money that stayed with him. It was the human connection he felt. Fragile, yet real. John knew he had to do something more, even if it was small. After finishing his breakfast, he dressed carefully and left for work. The streets were damp from the rain the previous day, and the air smelled fresh. His mind wandered, thinking of different ways he could help Maria. He didn't have much money, but maybe he could do more than just give coins or groceries. He thought about the skills he had, the time he could spare, and how even a little effort could make a difference. During his lunch break, John returned to the small store where he had met Maria. He wanted to see her again, to check if she and her children were okay. As he approached the building, he saw them outside, sitting on the small steps leading up to their apartment, The children were laughing softly as they shared the bread and milk he had bought yesterday. The sight warmed John's heart. Despite the hardships, their laughter reminded him that happiness could still exist in the smallest moments. Maria noticed him first and waved shyly. John walked over, smiling gently. "Good morning," he said. "How are you and the children today?" Maria smiled, a faint relief in her eyes. "We're okay. Thanks to you," she replied softly. "The children were so hungry yesterday, and you helped us more than you know." John shook his head. "I only did what I could, but I want to do more if I can." The words hung in the air. Maria hesitated, unsure what to say. She had grown used to struggling alone, to carrying the weight of her family without asking for help. But now, faced with someone who genuinely cared, she felt a mix of hope and disbelief. "It's not easy," she said quietly. "I want to give my children a better life, but I don't know how. I work odd jobs, and sometimes it's not enough. And I worry about school, about their health, everything." John listened carefully, nodding. He understood worry. He had known grief and uncertainty himself, but he had never had to face the challenge of feeding 5 hungry mouths. For the rest of the day, John couldn't concentrate at work. He kept thinking of Maria and her children, imagining their small apartment, the challenges they faced, and how he could make a real difference. That evening, he decided to take a small step. He returned home, wrote a list of groceries and supplies that could help them for the next week, and made a plan to visit the local community center to ask if they could provide additional support. He realized that helping them would not be easy, but he felt a responsibility he hadn't felt in years. The following day, John returned to Maria's apartment with a small bag of essentials, bread, vegetables, and a few other items. Maria opened the door and looked surprised. "You came again?" she asked. John smiled. "I wanted to make sure you and the children are okay. I also brought a few things to help." Maria invited him inside, and John noticed the apartment more clearly this time. The space was small, barely enough for 6 people, and the furniture was old and worn. There were signs of struggle everywhere, peeling paint on the walls, a small mattress in the corner for the children, and a stove that barely worked. As Maria unpacked the groceries, John asked gently, "Do the children go to school?" Maria nodded. "Yes, most of them. But sometimes I worry. I can't always afford the supplies or the uniform fees, and sometimes they come home hungry, and I feel helpless." John's heart ached. He had always thought of education as a right, not a privilege. Seeing a mother struggle so much to keep her children in school made him realize how much others suffered quietly, unseen by the world. Over the next few weeks, John started visiting Maria regularly. Sometimes he brought groceries, sometimes clothing, and sometimes he just sat and talked with her, offering advice or helping with small chores. He noticed little details about the children. Anna, the eldest, was protective of her siblings, always helping with chores and comforting the younger ones. David loved reading, even though he had very few books. Lily had a cheerful nature that lifted everyone's spirits. Michael was shy, often hiding behind his mother, and little Sophie, the youngest, had a laugh that was contagious despite the hardship around her. One afternoon, while helping Anna organize a few old school books, John discovered something surprising. The pages were filled with drawings, detailed, colorful, and imaginative. Each page told a story, some depicting animals, others showing scenes of adventure and imagination. "These are beautiful," John said softly, genuinely impressed. Anna looked down, embarrassed. "It's nothing. I just like drawing," she whispered. He realized that even in the middle of poverty, creativity and dreams could survive, waiting for someone to notice and nurture them. John's visits became a routine, something he looked forward to as much as the children did. He saw the struggles, Of course, Maria working tirelessly to keep them fed, the constant worry about bills, the small arguments that came from stress, but he also saw moments of joy. They played simple games together, told stories, and sometimes just sat quietly, sharing company. Through it all, John felt a connection growing between him and this family. He wasn't just helping them, he was becoming part of their lives, and they were becoming part of his. One evening, Maria confided something to John that stayed with him. "You know," she said softly, "I've been scared for so long, scared that I would fail my children, that they would grow up without hope. But having someone care, it's like a light in the dark. I didn't think anyone would ever notice us." John placed a hand gently on hers. "You're not alone anymore," he said. "We'll figure this out together. You and your children are strong, and we'll find a way to make life a little easier." Maria's eyes filled with tears. But this time, they were tears of hope, not despair. As the weeks turned into months, John continued to find small ways to help. He spoke to local shopkeepers, asking for discounts on groceries, and sometimes managed to get small donations from neighbors who noticed his efforts. He also began teaching the children simple lessons after school, helping David improve his reading, and encouraging Anna in her drawing. John saw how much difference a little attention, encouragement, and support could make. The children's faces began to brighten, their laughter became more frequent, and Maria seemed lighter, less burdened by the constant weight of survival. One rainy afternoon, much like the day John first met them, he noticed something remarkable. Maria had prepared a small meal, and all the children were sitting at the table, smiling, chatting, and helping each other. It wasn't a fancy meal, but it was enough, and it was shared with love. John realized how far they had come, not because of wealth or luxury, but because of the small, consistent acts of care and the determination to survive together. It was a lesson he would carry with him forever, the power of kindness and persistence in the face of hardship. Through it all, John himself began to change. He felt more alive, more connected, and more fulfilled. Helping Maria and her children reminded him that life wasn't just about getting through each day, it was about making a difference, however small, in the lives of others. It reminded him that even in sorrow, there was hope, and it reminded him that human connection, compassion, and resilience could shine through even the darkest times. That part of John's life, the mornings spent walking to their apartment, the afternoons helping with homework or chores, the evenings sharing simple meals and stories, became his new routine. He no longer felt the same loneliness that had haunted him for years. He had found purpose in being there for others, in helping a family survive and thrive despite the odds. And as he watched the children play and Maria smile more freely, John realized that the encounter that had started as a random act of kindness had grown into something much more profound. It was not just about giving food or money. It was about noticing someone who needed help, about caring enough to take action, about being present. John understood that the greatest impact came not from grand gestures but from steady, consistent support. And in doing so, he had discovered something he thought he had lost forever: a sense of connection, hope, and belonging. Weeks passed, and John's connection with Maria and her children grew stronger with each visit. He had begun to understand not just their daily struggles, but the little joys and strengths that kept them going. He could see the love that Maria had for her children, a love that fueled her determination despite everything. But one day, John realized he needed to see the bigger picture. He had been helping them on the surface, with food, supplies, and small comforts. But he wondered if there were deeper challenges that Maria faced alone, problems he couldn't fix with money or groceries alone. It was a late afternoon when John decided to visit their apartment again. The streets were quiet, with only the distant sounds of traffic and the occasional chatter of neighbors. He carried a small bag of groceries, but this time, he also brought his curiosity and a readiness to truly understand Maria's life. As he reached the apartment building, he noticed the children playing outside, their laughter echoing through the quiet street. Anna had a sketchbook in hand, showing her drawings to David and Lily, while Michael and little Sophie chased each other around a puddle. John smiled to himself. Their laughter was infectious, a reminder that even in hardship, happiness could exist. Maria opened the door before he could knock. Her eyes widened slightly in surprise, and then softened in recognition. "John, you're here again," she said warmly. "Come in." John stepped inside, setting the groceries down on the small table. The apartment felt even smaller than he remembered, though it was clean and organized as much as Maria could manage. He noticed the peeling wallpaper, the patched curtains, and the old stove. All signs of the life they lived. A life of struggle, yes, but also of perseverance. As Maria unpacked the groceries, John asked gently, "How have things been this week? Any new challenges?" Maria paused, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "It's been hard," she admitted softly. "Sometimes I feel like I can't keep up. The bills, the rent, school expenses, and I worry about the children, about what they might need that I can't provide." John nodded. He could see the weight of her worries etched into her face, the faint lines around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. He knew she carried far more than he could ever imagine, and he felt a pang of determination to help in ways beyond just food and clothing. After a moment, John asked if he could look around, curious to understand their living conditions more deeply. Maria hesitated, but then nodded, stepping aside. John walked slowly through the apartment. The living space was cramped. The children's small mattresses were neatly arranged along the walls, leaving just enough room for them to move. He noticed a corner where the children had kept their few belongings, books, some clothes, and a few handmade toys. Everything was sparse but cared for, showing the effort Maria put into maintaining some order, despite the scarcity. Then John saw something that caught his attention. On a small table near the window were papers scattered across the surface, drawings, homework sheets, and scribbles. Many of the drawings were intricate and detailed, especially the ones Anna had created. But as John looked closer, he noticed something more surprising. Some of the papers had notes, sketches, and diagrams that seemed far beyond a child's normal schoolwork. He realized that one of the children, David, had an incredible ability to think creatively and logically. The sketches showed problem-solving skills, imaginative designs, and even early concepts for inventions. John felt a mix of astonishment and excitement. Here was a child with talent that could shine if nurtured properly. Maria watched John quietly as he examined the papers. "He loves to draw and figure things out," she said softly. "Even when we didn't have enough to eat, he would spend hours with his papers. I don't know how to help him fully. I can barely keep food on the table, let alone encourage his talents." John looked up at her. "Maria, you've been giving these children so much love and care. Talent and creativity can grow, but it needs support too. I think we can find a way to help them. Not just with daily needs, but with their dreams and potential." Maria's eyes filled with a mixture of relief and hope. She hadn't dared to dream of anything beyond survival. But now John was opening a door she didn't know existed. John decided to spend the afternoon helping with the children's studies and exploring their talents. He sat with David and worked through some of the sketches, asking questions and encouraging him to explain his ideas. David's eyes lit up with pride as he shared his thoughts, and John was amazed at the depth of his creativity. Then he turned to Anna, looking through her drawings in detail, offering gentle suggestions and praise. Even little Sophie joined in, coloring a picture with her bright crayons, and John laughed at the way her tiny hands tried to stay inside the lines. As the day turned to evening, John realized he was witnessing more than just a family surviving hardship. He was seeing resilience, creativity, and determination in every corner of that small apartment. He understood that Maria's struggle went far beyond providing food and clothes. It was about nurturing the children's spirits, encouraging their dreams, and protecting them from the harsh realities of the world. The more he observed, the more he realized that his role could be more than just a helper. He could be a guide, a mentor, and a source of hope. Over the next few days, John made a plan. He decided to visit local organizations, schools, and community centers to see what resources could be made available for Maria and her children. He spoke with teachers, local volunteers, and neighbors, sharing the story of the family he had come to care about. Slowly, he began to gather support donations of books, art supplies, and even small scholarships for the children. John felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was not just helping them survive, he was creating opportunities for them to thrive. Then came the day that truly shocked him. John had arranged to visit Maria's apartment with some supplies and a few volunteers who wanted to help. As they entered the small living space, John noticed something he had not seen before. In the corner, tucked under a faded blanket, were old documents, photographs, and notebooks. Curiosity got the better of him, and he carefully picked them up. Among the papers were letters, certificates, and records that told a story he had never imagined. The documents revealed that Maria had been far more educated and accomplished than anyone would guess from her current situation. There were awards, letters of recognition for her work in local community projects, and certificates from professional courses she had completed before life's hardships had forced her into survival mode. John was stunned. This was a woman who had so much potential, who had once contributed significantly to her community, but circumstances had stripped her of opportunities and stability. Maria noticed John's expression and sighed. "I never wanted anyone to see those," she admitted quietly. "It's just, life happened. My husband left, I lost jobs, and everything collapsed. I didn't think anyone would care about my past. I only know how to survive for my children." John shook his head, feeling a mix of admiration and sorrow. "Maria, you are incredible. You've faced so much, yet you never gave up on your children. And now I see, you have talents, skills, and a mind that can do so much more than survive. We need to make sure the world sees that too." The discovery shifted everything for John. He realized that helping Maria was not just about giving food or supplies, it was about uncovering hidden potential, helping her regain confidence, and showing her that life could offer more than struggle. He promised her that they would find ways to rebuild, not just financially, but emotionally and intellectually. Together, they could turn the situation around, not only for the children but for Maria herself. Over the following weeks, John worked tirelessly. He connected Maria with community programs that offered job training, helped her organize her skills and experiences into a resume, and encouraged her to pursue opportunities that could provide stability. He also worked with the children, nurturing their talents and encouraging them to dream beyond their immediate circumstances. Anna continued her drawings, David explored his inventive ideas, and even Michael and little Sophie began showing new interests and confidence. By the time summer approached, John began to see remarkable changes. Maria's confidence grew, and she started participating in community events again, sharing her skills and knowledge. The children were happier, healthier, and more hopeful. And John realized that what had started as a small act of kindness had turned into a life-changing journey, not just for Maria and her children, but for himself as well. That afternoon, as he watched the family gather for a simple meal, John felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had discovered the hidden strengths, talents, and potential in a family that life had tested severely. The shocking discovery of Maria's past and the children's abilities reminded him that appearances could be deceiving, and that every person, no matter how hidden their struggles, had something remarkable to offer. He knew that this was only the beginning, but he felt confident that together, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. With the shocking discovery of Maria's past and the children's talents, John realized that their lives were at a turning point. What had started as simple acts of kindness had grown into something much bigger, a chance for a fresh start for the entire family. John felt a renewed sense of purpose, and Maria, for the first time in years, began to feel a glimmer of hope that life could be different. The months of struggle, worry, and survival were slowly transforming into a story of resilience, opportunity, and dreams coming to life. The first step John took was to help Maria reconnect with her professional skills. He had gathered information about her past work, certificates, and accomplishments, and together they created a clear, organized resume. John also encouraged her to write a heartfelt letter explaining her situation, how she had been forced to put her life on hold to care for her children, but that she was ready to contribute to her community once again. Maria hesitated at first, unsure if anyone would take her seriously, but John reassured her. "Your skills and determination are stronger than any hardship. The world will see that if you give it a chance," he told her. With John's help, Maria began applying to local organizations, charities, and small businesses that valued dedication and skill. She was nervous at first, worried that her long gap in employment would hold her back. But John reminded her of the value of experience, resilience, and character. Slowly, interviews began to happen, and each time Maria left feeling slightly more confident. She realized that her past struggles, while painful, had shaped her into someone resourceful, compassionate, and incredibly determined. Meanwhile, John focused on the children, nurturing their unique talents and helping them find opportunities to grow. Anna's drawings caught the attention of a local art teacher, who offered to mentor her and introduce her work to a small exhibition. David's inventive sketches and problem-solving ideas fascinated a local science club, which invited him to participate in workshops for young inventors. Lily, Michael, and Sophie also found ways to explore their creativity. Lily loved music and started learning the piano. Michael discovered a passion for building small, mechanical projects. And Sophie, though the youngest, showed an unusual curiosity for nature and animals. John realized that providing guidance, encouragement, and access to resources could transform lives far more profoundly than any financial assistance alone. He began spending more time with the family in ways that went beyond daily survival. Teaching, mentoring, sharing experiences, and simply listening. Through this consistent support, the children grew more confident, more ambitious, and more hopeful about the future. One afternoon, as John and Maria sat together after helping the children with homework, Maria spoke softly. "I never thought life could be like this again," she said. "After everything, I thought my world was only about surviving, about never falling behind. But now, I feel like there is something more waiting for us." John nodded, smiling. "There is. And you've already done so much, raised strong, talented children, kept your family together, and shown courage through the hardest times. This is just the beginning." Maria's eyes glistened with tears, not of sorrow, but of gratitude and hope. As the weeks passed, the family's life began to stabilize in ways they had never imagined. Maria secured a part-time job at a community center, where she used her organizational and teaching skills to help other struggling families. John continued supporting her, providing mentorship and encouragement whenever challenges arose. The children's progress amazed everyone who knew them. Anna's artwork was gaining recognition. David's inventions were improving with guidance, and the younger children were exploring their interests with joy and curiosity. One day, John received a call from a local charity organization. They had heard about his dedication to helping Maria's family and wanted to assist in creating a small scholarship fund for the children. This meant that the children could focus on their studies, hobbies, and passions without worrying about financial burdens. John was overjoyed and shared the news with Maria, who was nearly in disbelief. I don't know what to say," she whispered. "I never imagined something like this could happen." John smiled. "You've earned it, Maria. You and your children deserve every opportunity to succeed. And now, With help from the community, those opportunities are real. The family began to dream bigger than ever before. Anna started creating a portfolio of her artwork. David worked on a small project to enter a young inventors competition, and Lily, Michael, and Sophie explored clubs and classes that sparked their curiosity. Maria, once weighed down by despair, now had a vision for the future, one where she could provide not just survival, but growth and happiness for her children. John felt immense satisfaction, knowing that his initial act of kindness had grown into a ripple of change, touching the lives of an entire family. Yet, the journey wasn't without challenges. Life continued to present obstacles, occasional financial strain, unexpected setbacks at work, and the emotional weight of the past. But Maria and John approached these challenges with resilience, teamwork, and hope. They had learned that even small victories mattered, that progress wasn't always smooth, and that the strength of a family could overcome almost anything. The children, too, had learned these lessons. They celebrated small successes, supported one another, and understood that life could be tough. But together, they could face it. One evening, John sat quietly on the apartment steps, watching the sunset with Maria. The children played nearby, their laughter filling the courtyard. John reflected on the journey so far, the first day he had met Maria, the fear and worry he had seen in her eyes, the struggles he had witnessed, and the hidden potential he had discovered. He realized that what had shocked him at first, the discovery of Maria's past skills and the children's talents, was just the beginning of an even bigger revelation: the true strength of the human spirit. Despite hardship, despair, and loss, hope, resilience, and determination could shine through. Maria joined him on the steps, smiling as she watched the children. Not just surviving, but really living, really growing. "You've changed our lives, John. I don't even know how to thank you." John shook his head. "You did all the hard work, Maria. I just helped you see what was already there. You and your children are remarkable. I'm just glad I could be part of your journey." As the months turned into a year, the family's life continued to improve steadily. Maria's job allowed her to save a small amount each month, providing stability for the children. John remained a steady presence, mentoring, guiding, and supporting whenever needed. Anna's artwork was displayed in local exhibitions, gaining admiration and praise. David's inventions won him recognition in youth competitions, inspiring him to think even bigger. Lily, Michael, and Sophie continued exploring their talents, supported by their mother's encouragement and John's guidance. One afternoon, Maria invited John inside for tea. She had a smile on her face, one that radiated confidence and contentment. "John," she said, "we've come so far. I never thought this could happen. You've been more than a friend. You've been a part of our family. And I want you to know, what you did for us, it changed everything." John felt a warmth in his heart. "Maria, it's been an honor. Helping you and your children reminded me what really matters in life: connection, compassion, and the courage to keep going. You've done all the work. I just helped guide the way." That day, as they sat together, John realized something profound. The family he had helped was no longer just surviving, they were thriving. Their laughter, dreams, and accomplishments were proof that even the darkest circumstances could be transformed with kindness, support, and determination. And the greatest surprise of all, the world was full of hidden potential, waiting for someone to notice, nurture, and believe. By the end of the year, Maria's family had fully embraced a new chapter in life. The children were confident, happy, and thriving. Maria had regained her sense of purpose and dignity, contributing meaningfully to her community and inspiring others with her story. John, once a struggling widower himself, had found a new sense of meaning and belonging through the family he had helped. Together, they had built a life filled with hope, growth, and the belief that even in the most challenging circumstances, positive change was possible. And as John watched the family one evening, playing in the courtyard, laughing and enjoying the moment. He realized the truth that had guided him all along. Sometimes, the smallest acts of kindness can lead to the greatest transformations, revealing strength, talent, and hope where no one expected it. What had started as a single encounter on a rainy day had grown into a journey of resilience, love, and discovery, a journey that had changed all of their lives forever.